Okay, I'm going to try to record this. So here we are. And I'm going to try to use this reference that I'm looking at. I don't think you guys can see it, but when I edit this movie, I'll post it. It's not really fair. So I'm going to print this out real quick so you'll see what I'm seeing. And I'll just let this run. Okay, here we go. That'll make it easier for you guys because otherwise it won't make any sense. So we're painting this place called Port Flagg, I think. Anyway, so I'm going to start off with a low horizon line right somewhere through there. And I'm going to start off with this diagonal somewhere through there. And then I can put in these little hills back here, but I want to do this beach. And then these rocks. So I'm going to try to use this S curve right here, somewhere in here and going down to there. And then the top of this is another S curve going somewhere down into there. And then I have this big kind of log sticking out. And some debris and something up the beach. And so on and so forth. I'm just going to draw this bluff shape, which is that, and then that, going down to somewhere in there. And then this little C curve here, and raise that a little bit. I've got a bush over here. This little guy, I've got some foliage up here, but I've got this crack coming down through here, and then that shadow somewhere like this. And then I've got another one on down the beach, and I've got this kind of bigger one sticking up here, and then some jaggy kind of corners. And then it diminishes quite rapidly. And I've got this little tree, and then I go on up into this, and then finally start getting into some trees up here. And I have this little sky hole, and I'm going to keep that and put some indications of some trees up here for my own reference. But I don't, I just need big shapes. I am going to indicate some of these rocks just by this edge. And I'm going to put a big, that big rock here, and then some smaller rocks, just to remind me that they are rocks. And a few on the beach. down here. We won't be painting those individually. Yikes. And something going out in the water here. And I think that's enough information. This seems to be enough information for me to start painting. I do not want to put in too much because then you're going to just start following all the lines and you're going to end up painting by numbers. So anyway, let's see how this works. A couple more as they get smaller in the distance. Okay, I think we're ready to go. I'll try to keep this up here. Yeah, that'll work. And so the first thing I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to use Mr. Gravity, which is going to be this. I'm going to set this cardboard under here so I have a raised surface to paint on. And I'll keep this in the background somewhere there, back here, so you can kind of see what I'm doing. And the first thing I want to do is I want to use just some of this contaminated palette with a little blue on it, and I'm going to mix up some of the contamination to make it kind of a neutral palette. And I'm just going to wet this. I'm going to wet this with some of this contaminated color, and then I'm going to start dropping in some of this sky color. That'll work. Doesn't take much. There's a sky going on in there someplace, and I'm going to add a little purple into this because I know I'm going to be using purple over here, and I want that to I want to connect that to this. There we go. That's pretty good. So there's my sky. Now I'm going to use some raw sienna. I think that's pretty good. I want to use it not too heavy. And I'm going to paint some of this, these bluffs with this. Get a little more of it as we go down the bluff here. A little bit of it to remind me about that log. I'll probably have to go back and touch that a little bit later. The sky's painting itself while I'm playing around over here. And while that is doing its thing, I'm going to add some, a little purple into that for part of this. And part of this. While it's still kind of sort of wet, I'm just going to do that quickly and let it have its way. I see some orange in there, so while it's still wet, I am going to add a little bit of that as we get closer to here, and maybe even a little bit coming down here. That's more than enough. And I can even go back and I can scrape a little bit to add a little texture. I think that's going to work fine. Now, I've got the sky. I've got this started. This. I'm going to add a couple more little things going across here. Yep. There we go. Looks kind of bluffy. I'm thinking of this as a study, not a painting, so it takes some of the pressure off. I'm going to mix some more of the raw sienna with some purple because I want to neutralize that, so yellow and purple will neutralize that. I want this kind of wet sand, beachy kind of color. So I'm going to neutralize that until I get a kind of a sand, wet sand kind of a color. And I want to leave a few of these little white, the paper flecks, and I want to go along this edge fairly. I just don't want a straight edge. I'm going to leave a few of these little guys just sprinkled around, and I'm going to use a little bit of this same color, I think, for this guy in particular, that rock, and maybe just so they connect a few of those rocks. So that looks fairly decent. Now I'm going to use a little blue for that, for these rocks back here, and I'm going to try to just paint this with, this is a big brush for this small painting for a lot of people. It's a 3/4 angled flat. I'm going to just touch, that's a little bit too blue. I'm just going to touch a few places here, denoting these blue-gray rocks. And so that's how I'm going to paint these rocks back here, just by touching it with this, the tip of this angled flat. And it's going to give the impression, and as I get further down the beach, it's going to get smaller and smaller. So there I have some of those, and I also have a few more of these little warm colored rocks, and I want to make sure that I leave some of this white paper. I want to leave some paper left, so I think that's a pretty good start. Here I do want to take some of this blue color I used on the sky, and I'm going to try to just do that. So now I got that nice little wave happening, or at least some water texture. I'm going to take some more of that purple. It's my dark. It's not about the color, it's about the value of the color. And I'm going to mix a little bit of burnt sienna with that purple. So now I've got this nice dark. I am going to put some of that dark here, and I'm going to finish that corner off. I'm going to start doing a little negative painting. Got a little hair on the brush. I want a little darker rock right there. I want to keep that nice little edge. Now I'm starting to know what dark is. I'm putting some darks in, and it's really going to pop a lot of this stuff. And I have a dark shadow under here from this log coming down. And there's kind of the tip, another tree, another piece of debris up here. And I'm going to add a few of these rocks on the beach, and I'm going to turn my brush so I don't get them all going the same way. It's not too bad. So I am going to add a little more blue in here because it makes a nice contrast with those other rocks, and much smaller little, just touching it. I just want these to appear to be smaller than the ones down the beach, and I'm going to make these a little darker as they go out into the beach. It's not too bad. Kind of gives the effect of it. Oh, while I have this darker purpley kind of color, I want to put a few things here on the beach. And I want to put a little bit of that edge happening, I think. And I can go back because Sargent said I could. I can go back with gouache at the end. So just so you know, it's okay to do that. At least it is with me. I'm going to take some of the, I'm going to use some ultramarine kind of blue, and I'm going to mix some of that raw sienna with it. Well, I'm using a lot of that for everything, huh? And I'm going to mix up a kind of a green color. It's kind of a warm green. Well, I thought it was. Yeah, it's kind of a warm green. I'm going to make sure I get that corner. And I'm going to start kind of outlining this part of the bluff. And come down into here a little bit. And here's a bush back here of something. So that's just a little swipe up. And it works really well when you do that. So there's a little swipe up. And I'm going to make that a little better shape. So I'm kind of framing those bluffs, and I'm also framing these rocks down here. I want that to appear as a harder edge. When you paint this way, paint indicatively as opposed to getting out the little brush and trying to put in too much detail too early. It's a much fresher kind of painting. I'm going to get a little darker with this. I'm going to define this slope and this bush all at the same time. That's that little guy back there. And I can just start going along the edge here and defining this cliff, these bluffs a little bit better. And it kind of goes up and then it goes over. And I want to make sure that I have my kind of my sky hole left. In fact, I'm going to add a little bit of blue back here to make sure that happens. That's actually a pretty good color, so I think I'll add a little bit of it right through here to make some texture, some more texture for those bluff kind of guys. I'm getting a little bluer with my I was afraid of that. That's going to be wet now, and I don't want it to be quite that wet. But anyway, that's okay. I'm going to add some detail to some of those trees, and I'm still using my big brush. I'm just going to use the very tip. I can get a nice little indication of those trees going down. That might do it. I'll have to wait for this to dry a little bit more, I think, for me to do anything. While I'm doing that, I think I'll put in these little hills behind here, this little across the lake or across the water, just as indicating it as some kind of atmospheric perspective, and maybe just a little swipe without getting too precious. Let me see if this is dark. This is not dark enough yet, but I am going to go back with a little orange and a little bit of that raw sienna again. I've got a little bit of that happening. Oh, I like that color there, and that's pretty good color right there. I've got a little more orange happening, a little redder. I'm going to use this very lightly. I've got it kind of coming down through here a little bit, and I'm going to make this a little darker. And this cliff, I'm just going to touch a few places, just with the side of the brush, just to get a little texture into it. And this is, I got to put this dark in there. So I'll go back and mix a little bit of kind of a darker green. Anyway, I want this dark right in here, this little triangle. So I'm just going to twist my brush slightly, and I'm going to define that edge of that slope a little bit. There we go. And so this is going on up into that. Maybe now I can actually, I'm going to paint this whole thing with this big brush just so you can see it. Even down to the finish strokes. And I'm going to mix some of this ultramarine with my burnt sienna, and I'm going to get a really good dark. And I can bias that on the warm side, or I can bias it on the cool side. There it's pretty cool. Here I'm going to add a little bit more of this. So now I've got a really good kind of a warm dark that I can put a little bit into it. You thought this was dark until I added that, right? And I'm going to put a little bit more of that down here. And that can stay, and I just want a few little and I'll add some depth to this. Kind of cool. Just touching it with the edge of the brush. We'll clean up. Not too bad. I want to make this a little darker, so I'm going to use a contaminated palette. I'm going to make that a little more dramatic, bend that corner. This I can also stand to make a little more dramatic. Put something happening up here on the bluff. And I want to get a little bit darker and less interesting going on down there. A little grayer, I guess. And I do see some of those, I do see some of that color, that orange. Again, I used it up here. I'm going to use it down here in some of these rocks too. Just a little bit, just to give it some interest. Nope, I guess it's dry already. You snooze, you lose. Okay, that's not too bad. I think we're getting there. I'm going to break this up a tad. And I think what I might do is I'm going to use a little cobalt in here because I want to make this really warm through here, and I want to cool this beach off a little bit. So I'm going to use a little of this cobalt just to go over it and kind of glue it together. Yeah, I like that better. And this, I'm going to go over that because I don't want you to look over here. I don't want you to look over here in this corner. I don't care what the photo's telling me. I don't want you to look over there. And a few little darks, so let's go back. I won't use Payne's Gray. I'm just going to keep with my darks. A few little darks on the beach. A few little of these smaller stones. Shadows. Just a little bit of detail. And I saw some, I'm not going to put any in here, but I saw some orange in there. So now I'm kind of getting there pretty quickly. I'm going to use some of my white paint. And I'm going to use a little bit of that raw sienna with it, but not very much. So I can make opaque watercolor out of any of my transparent watercolors just by using this opaque white. I do want to emphasize that a little bit. And I'm going to emphasize this guy a little bit more. You can see that in the background, and this guy has a little something going on. And I think I want to put just a little of that. I'm going to have it brighter. Going on with that log and a little dark underneath it. And this is going to define some of my rocks. And I think we're getting pretty close. At least I want to take the tape off to see where I am. Close that for now. So I can make final adjustments, but I can't see it with the mess. So now I'm going to look at this without the mess to see how we did. And I think it's not too bad for representing what we have. I see I want to kill something just a little bit. I want to kill this guy right here just a tad. Even make that a little darker, more dramatic. And I could add a little greener green. I'll just use some green. Why not? Just in a, oops, I gotta get some on the brush first, huh? It's kind of dry. Just as a little touch. Same way we did the rocks, we'll do that. That's a little bit too bright. Maybe we pick that back up here and some of that foliage up at the top. It does have some of that green in it. That's enough, probably. Maybe further on down the beach, especially right there. And I think we're pretty much done with this study. There you go, it's a study. That kind of helped me at least. So there's a highlight on top of that guy. And I'm going to just add a little dark right here. There we go. And okay, stop putzing. I have to tell myself, stop putzing. Okay, I'm going to dry that off, and then I can erase the pencil line, but I think that's fairly representative of what I was trying to do with this. I had to put that in there. Let's lay it flat and see how we compare to our inspiration, our reference. Kind of fun. Why not?